Good afternoon. It is Thursday afternoon, and what I'd like to do is talk a little bit about all the discussions you've been having in the last week or two. These seem to be discussion-heavy times in our courses, and it is about the midpoint where we're getting into, and we're into week 4, and here you are having another discussion this time about competitive balance and issues like that. Last week we concentrated on some forms of organization like monopoly and economic power and things like that. But what I'd really like to talk to you about today is the whole idea of discussion itself, because most of what I've seen is pretty good. Some of it is rather average. And some of it's not the greatest. And you know what? It's a big class and we're all over the place. Some of us don't have our best days. Some of us have our great days. Some of us are, used to doing it one way. Some of us are used to doing it another. But I think I mentioned back in the beginning, and if I didn't, I should have, is that I do place a very high value on discussion. And I think in a course like ours about sport economics, this is when we have a chance to learn a lot from each other and to pick up on what other people have picked up on in the class, what they've found in the readings, what they've found in some of their own digging and researching and coming up with answers. So I'd just like to point out a few things, maybe a few things I'm going to call, I don't know if you want to call them tips and tricks or whatever they're like that, because they're not tricks. They're almost principles about what you should be learning and how we should be doing it. And I have been doing online education for close to 20 years. I was kind of in on the beginning, and I think I know what works, and I think I know a lot of what works. And let me just get a few messages across to people, and it's very important to us. If you look at the week 3 that just went by, where we had 2 side-by-side discussions, 3.1 and 3.2, where we talked about, as what I just said, monopoly and economic power and things like that. It was quite a range of what you saw for work. Made some notes for myself here. The actually longest post in either discussion was 1,026 words. Now, generally, that's a couple of pages. That's a couple, maybe 3 typewritten pages. The shortest opening post, 48 words. That's quite a differential, 48 versus 1,026. But it just shows to some degree, the effort people put in. To some degree, it shows the writing styles and things. Some people can be much more succinct than others. Some people have a lot to say. But the point is, it's quite a variance. Is 1,026 too much? I don't know. Is 48 too little? Tend to think so, but again, I don't know. And I'd like people to take that to heart, is in there. That's the range of effort we get. When I looked at some of the other things in here, the longest thread in the 2 discussions we had, never mind word content, the longest thread, the one that had the most entries in it, 8. Just 8 posts. The opening and 7 responses and back and forth. So it was 8 posts, 7 people. Most of them generate, guess what? 3, 2, 1. It's what the rubric requires, so that's what we do when we stop. And that's one of the problems I wanted to address. The rubric asks us, as it does in every business school class at Post, to write a response to the question. And I want to thank everybody for following my request that you not take up space by writing the question into the answer, but we ask you for a detailed response to the question and then to reply to other classmates with some critical exchange. The truth of the matter is what we really get is that. We get the opening post, we get 2 replies to other people. Now, I've been encouraging people to challenge others and to ask questions, but in many cases I see where a question gets asked of another classmate or of classmates in general. But But the problem is that question gets asked at 11:32 on Sunday night. And I have to turn around and kind of imply, and I think once I even asked directly to the student who wrote that, were you really expecting a response? Or are you just trying to fill in those 2 response posts? The other thing I noticed that's related to that, when does this class tend to do its work in discussion? Wednesdays and Sunday nights. So what does that tell me? Well, what are the 2 deadlines we see in the rubric? Wednesday at midnight, Sunday night at midnight. And as long as you meet those conditions, I think everybody's expecting the full score. And my question to all of us is that really the grounds and the basis for a real discussion? Are we really doing what I just asked? If we ask a question of somebody on a Sunday night, are we really expecting an answer? And if we do get an answer, are we prepared to engage with that person and start an exchange of views? So here's some things I'd like us to think about. Because of that first deadline, Wednesday night at 11, we can assume that everyone, if everyone's done their work and met the deadline, has an answer ready to go Wednesday night at 11. And you don't have to wait till Sunday to answer it, do you? Especially not if you have a comment about that could generate discussion, that could enlighten both parties and more. All right? So don't wait till Sunday. Now, I know we all have different schedules and we have different demands on our time, and all of that's true. And all of that is one of the reasons we're probably in an online course rather than in a formal, face-to-face, rigidly scheduled session. But the point is, to put in the work required to have a productive discussion means that we've got to devote the time to it. And I have to admit, when I looked at a lot of statistics in our course today, a lot of us aren't putting in an awful lot of time. If any, it tends to be 5 or 6 hours tends to be a massive amount of time. It's more like 1.5. And I see people down with half an hour and some with a few minutes. And we have the idea of we're all expecting great results for less than great effort. It brings me back to thinking about when I was coaching, and I had a player on my team at Post who came up to me and talked about a grade. And, Coach, can I talk to you about a grade? I'm going, knowing that I was a faculty member at the time. Sure, talk to me about the grade. Well, can you read this thing I turned in my XYZ class? Okay, I'll read it. Hey, this is junk. This is terrible. This is not worth anything. What are you complaining about? You're lucky you got any points at all. Oh, but I turned something in. Yeah, by the way, it was late. Okay, but I turned something in. I should get at least an 80. What do you want, a participation trophy? Okay. What I'm asking is that, this is a 400 level course. It takes work. It takes work on all of our part, mine as well as yours, to go through and make sure that we're getting what we need out of this, that we're getting information, experience, and things that are going to help you understand important concepts that you're going to need if you're pursuing a sport management career. So don't look at this as kind of my nastygram or my complaint. Look at this as something that says, hey, we're 400 level students. We're going to be out there in the job market, in the marketplace really soon. We wouldn't be sport management majors if we weren't interested in this. Let's put in the work that it needs. Let's be respectful of others' time. Let's be respectful of our own time so that we're not rushing when we don't have enough time and we can't do a good job because we didn't allow ourselves to do a good job. It's going to take some work. It's going to take some time. But we've got 4.5 weeks left to go. We've got more than half the course. So with that in mind, that's what I saw in these 2 side-by-side discussions. And I thank you for your attention, and I hope you take some of these arguments to heart. Thank you very much.